Risen Reef, but it does look like some hand and mana issues here from Culotta in the first game. The Tail's End wasn't cast, it was discarded to hand size. And Muller continues. Leafkin Druid gets a card off Risen Reef. A second Reef from Muller.
Ooh, this is just so many cards, and this is the power of the Elementals package. Culotta stumbled, and all of a sudden it feels like Paul is up 1,000,000 cards.
Right, now the Leafkin Druid taps for 2. So 3 green mana on the table. He attacks in for 1. Now, if Justin has a Kaya's Wrath this turn, it might be okay.
Yeah, you want to wipe it up if you're on Culotta's side of the table, but on the other hand, Paul still has a full grip almost.
Right. Yeah, especially with double Risen Reef, that's unlikely to change.
Right.
Here's Omnath, and there is another Tail's End from Justin Culotta.
Paul's Muller going, wait, that does counter any legendary spell.
Yeah.
Huh.
1 and a blue, counter target activated ability, triggered ability, or legendary spell.
Not to worry.
He has another, not to worry, Paul has enough mana to cast another Omnath. That one shoots 5 damage upstairs and triggers 2 Risen Reefs. And Culotta does find Kaya's Wrath. So the board now clear. Paul has a lot of cards in hand from those Risen Reefs. But
Yeah. Still looking at, what, 6 cards in hand?
Yeah, Cavalier of Thorns. Top 5. Gets to put a land onto the battlefield. Untapped Steam Vents. Paul goes to 16. Follows up with another Incubation Druid.
Is that a miscut Steam Vents? That looks so good. Bouncing a Cavalier of Thorns cannot feel good. Oh,
But okay, bounce it. He does have a Thought Erasure, but he has to take Mass Manipulation with it. So
Right.
Cavalier of Thorns is going to hit the table again.
it's an awkward spot where you want to know what Muller has, so you'd think that Thought Erasing first would feel better, but if you need to take that Cavalier, then
Right.
so be it.
Yeah, because Muller is about to untap with so much mana, I think Justin knows that Mass Manipulation is the scariest card. For Paul, Tameo brings Omnath back to his hand. Paul casts the Omnath, shoots down the Teferi, and makes an Incubation Druid. Here's Oath of Kaya to take care of the Omnath. Justin really just trying to clean this up. And now we have one of his 3 copies of Liliana's Triumph. 1 in a black, the 2 mana instant. Each opponent sacrifices a creature, and then if you control a Liliana Planeswalker, they also discard a card, which Justin actually does have some Lilianas in the main deck.
Ooh, Hydroid Crisis coming to Paul's hand from this Tameo roll-up. This is huge. Paul just has so many cards.
Yeah, each card here just seems to draw more cards for Paul.
And this is the strength of this Elementals deck. We saw Tanya Russell playing against Brad Bonin yesterday on Esper as well, and it just never felt like Tanya actually ran out of resources.
Right. Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, tucks away the Cavalier. Tameo again for Paul. Finds the Cavalier. Makes sense. You name that, you know it's there.
Yep, exactly.
For 6 mana, Paul Mass Manipulates the Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. So that's his own hero. +1, he'll draw another card. Cast another Leafkin Druid, a land, and then can untap 2 on the end step.
There's a disparity between the number of resources these players have.
Justin, another Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, tucks his own Teferi back into his deck. Now, there is the potential when you play a control deck to actually go through all of your opponent's cards. Basically you let a card advantage opponent draw their whole deck, and then you just answer the whole deck. Paul has cast his 3rd and final. I think has his last match, the same Mass Manipulation. He actually has the 1 in the main, which he keeps getting back with the Tameo.
Yeah, and I really like that he's just firing it off here and not trying to save it up to get 2 Planeswalkers. When Culotta knows it's there, Culotta likely won't expose any relevant Planeswalkers into that Mass Manipulation, so he doesn't want to just have it get got by something like Thought Erasure.
Here's Kaya's Wrath. We do get to see the death triggers on Cavalier of Thorns. When it dies, you may exile it. If you do, put another target card from your graveyard on top of your library.
How do you feel about Nissa, who shakes the world with Hydroid Crisis?
That's so many cards. Paul actually needs to be careful he doesn't draw his whole deck here.
What a weird problem to have.
Yeah. This reminds me of when you, I know I played against this in Modern, when you play, it's kind of what historically is like the Amulet versus blue-white control matchup, where you'd have all your cards were 2-for-1s and 3-for-1s, but what the blue-white player would try to do is let you get every card out of your deck and remove all of them, and then eventually you'd be out of cards, and then they'd win. In a way, it feels like Culotta's taking a similar approach to this game.
Yeah, there's definitely a spot where it's hard to say if it'll work out, because Culotta playing these absorbs means he wasn't expecting many planeswalkers, which, taking that a step further, we can see here he has 0 copies of the Elder Spell in his main deck.
Right.
So answering Tamiyo and this Teferi and this Nissa is a very tall order.
Yeah, no copies of Elder Spell, no Planar Cleansing. That actually is a card that is in M20, but with nothing like that to clean up the board, it looks like Culotta just can't keep pace. He can't stay alive.
There's just no way from that position.
Now, do you think, we looked at sideboard here, I know Culotta's not playing it this weekend, but the reprint of Planar Cleansing, is that something that might matter in Standard?
That one's a little tough, because in a lot of the control decks that want a Planar Cleansing-esque effect, Planeswalkers are just your best source of card advantage as well, right? So you end up in a spot where, do you want to play Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, and Teferi, Time Raveler, and Narset? Or do you want to play Planar Cleansing?
Right. Almost feels like for Planar Cleansing to see play Absorb has to be good again.
Right. You have to end up in a spot where your card advantage engines are things like that drawn from Dreams that we saw, or other instant speed answers to things, and you are not going to be relying at all on any sort of permanence to kind of accrue any sort of advantage.
I suppose it's been a while. We used to see Vraska's Contempt in Standard, and that's just fallen off the map.
Right, and a lot of that is just that 4 mana to not contribute to the battlefield at all isn't quite worth it when there are more efficient answers to basically each thing that card is doing. So players are finding themselves in a spot where, sure, you could spend 4 mana on a Vraska's Contempt to pay this extra mana to answer Planeswalkers, but if you want to answer Planeswalkers, you can just play the Elder Spell.
Right. Yeah, Standard has gotten to very powerful at this point.
Right, it's a very powerful Standard format, and it's honestly very mana efficient as well. Whenever you see people bringing out these mono blue decks and these feather decks with God's Willing, having a 4 mana removal spell is honestly just embarrassing a lot of the time.
I was thinking back about the Azorius control deck used to play in Standard, where it would have Seal Away, Chemister's Insight, 4 Teferi, Cast Down, or Cast Out as a spell, and I was thinking, this deck would not compete in this Standard meta.
No, not even
like
a
those
little
cards
bit.
are, oh yeah, I'll play my 4 mana instant speed Oblivion Ring.
Oh, I'm so proud
And
of
it's
you
like
for
you're
playing
like,
that 4
right?
mana Oblivion Ring.
Like, look at any of these decks. It's just, yeah. When my deck of Sealaways, how would it do against this Risen Reef all mythic rares deck? It's like, oh, I'd get clobbered.
Look at that Veil of Summer action.
Yeah, I would. That would happen out of the board. I'd hope they attack their Risen Reefs into my Settle the Wreckage, and then I'd give them a bunch of lands, and they'd say thank you and start playing Hydroid Crisis, and then I'd hate this game.
How do you feel about this start? Counter your hand disruption spell, counter your hand disruption spell, card advantage engine.
Veil of Summer's a really nice Magic card. That's a great card. I'm kind of into it in Modern. I might even play it with Primeval Titan.
Oof. So we do see Culotta picking up a copy of Vraska's Contempt, and the one thing that card does that's actually quite good right now is that it is able to cleanly answer a Cavalier of Thorns.
Yeah, he's got 3 of them. I was just saying, no one's playing it anymore. And thanks, Justin.
Look, I mean, in a lot of ways, it looks like he's tried to posture himself to be okay against this Elementals deck, but he's very much leaned into answering the Elementals rather than the Planeswalkers, and that bit him last game.
He's really playing, I guess, what you could call previous level Esper.
In a lot of ways, that's a good way to put it.
It's the deck of, okay, we have Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, and a bunch of removal spells.
Is this a good turn for it?
This is what terrifies me about playing previous level control, is your opponent they play 2 mana creatures that are Coiling Oracles. Like look, Paul has 5 creatures in play. They all drew him cards. They all make mana. This is horrible. he's going to have to Kaya's Wrath a bunch of Elvish Visionaries. It's just, I hate this. Nissa Who Shakes the World. Tail's End. Oh, yeah. Oh, and then this happened. Another Veil of Summer. Which just is unreasonable. And this is horrible. Paul is so far ahead. Look, I just want to counter people's spells, Emma. Is that just too much to ask?
The Gruul friends have hit the table.
Oh, I mean, this...
Coiling royalical triggles.
This is so depressing.
I mean, this is why Paul is undefeated in this tournament.
I just want to play counter spells and removal, and my opponent only plays things that enter the battlefield abilities, and then plays 4 Veil of Summers. Look, I'm upset. Okay, Kaya's Wrath. Here we go. A good sweeper. Now we just have to deal with the 2 Planeswalkers on the battlefield.
So you can Chandra. Oh, wait, is Culotta dead? You -8 to Chandra to 8 Culotta, roll up Nissa, 3 Culotta, cast the new Chandra, -6 at Culotta?
I think that works. Paul's just going to give him another emblem. Because I don't think he can answer that either.
No. The player continues to burn.
There we go. And Hydroid Krasis for 12. Draws 6 more. Gets a new hand of magic cards.
So you were talking about liking counter spells. How do you feel about Sphinx's Revelation? Rev for 6?
Yeah.
Anyone?
We don't have enough mana to rev for 6. This is just terrifying.
Discard step Omnath.
I just remember you used to play these Absorb to Fairy decks, and sometimes a black-green mid-range deck would beat you by just playing more value than you could answer. And what Paul's doing would qualify as that by a mile. There's no way you would keep pace with this many cards.
Duress.
Oh, okay. Which card would you like? All right.
That deck's fine.
Welcome back.
That deck's fine. This Elementals deck is a lot. That is wow. Just double Risen Reef is